imagine we could have a conflict if we were in a relationship. We could have a conflict that would blow the relationship apart. All right, so we don't want to have that conflict. And then we could have no conflict whatsoever, which means that you would never get to say what you wanted and I would never get to say what I wanted, because we're either identical, which is just not happening, or we're going to have conflict because you're going to want some things that I don't want, and vice versa. So if there's no conflict, we are not in a relationship. All right, so zero conflict is the wrong amount, and conflict that destroys the relationship is the wrong amount. And then you might say, well, okay, what's the optimal amount of conflict? Well, so then we can think about how people respond emotionally. So let's say, if you go after the person that you're arguing with and you say, you're a bad person, and you really make that case, you bloody well hammer it home, you remember 50 things they've done that were bad, and you lay them out. It's like, I'm going to stomp you, you're a bad person, you really need to change. Okay, well, first of all, you're going to meet tremendous resistance, and that's like you've got the hydrogen, you're bringing the hydrogen bomb to the war, right? And maybe, unless you want to destroy everything, maybe that's not the most logical solution. But then by the same token, everything's all right and we never have any conflict. That's not helpful either, and you're going to get bored of that and you're not going to develop. And so then the question is, well, maybe there's some happy medium here. Maybe you want to be repairing this structure, you know, the structure that goes from micro actions up to higher order conceptualizations. Maybe you want to be updating that on a constant basis. And you want to update it in a manner that doesn't drop you into chaos or place you in too much stasis. And then the answer is, well, how? Then the question is, how is it that you can calibrate your approach to error so that you get the benefits of doing it without the disadvantage of collapsing into chaos? And then the answer to that is something like, once you have decided to adopt responsibility for being, and we'll say that what that means is that you have conceptualized a good that you're willing to devote yourself to, and I think you're perfectly welcome to do that on an individual basis. I think you should do it on an individual basis. You should consult with your ancestors while you're doing that, because generally speaking, the route to quality of life and productivity has been laid out by other people. We kind of know what the parameters are. You need to do something that other people find is useful. And you have to regard it as useful as well. Or at least you have to be entertaining. There has to be something about you of value to other people that you have to pursue with a fair bit of diligence. So you have to play a productive social role. Probably need friends. Probably need an intimate relationship. And if it could be medium to long-term intimate relationship, perhaps all the better. That's what most societies hold up as ideal. Could assume, well, there's probably a reason for that. I think one of the reasons is that your life gets fragmented otherwise, badly fragmented, you know, because every time you have a long-term relationship and it fragments, it's like your identity is blown into pieces. You get fragmented across time. It's not good. It breaks you into pieces, and you don't necessarily recover that well. It makes everything much more impermanent and unreliable, all of those things. So it introduces a tremendous amount of uncertainty into your life, and it also means that you don't have anyone around that you can really trust, and that's bad. Because if you have someone around you can really trust, then you have two brains instead of one, and like you probably need two brains to manage your way through life. It's pretty complicated. So you orient yourself towards some good, the highest good that you can conceptualize, and it has to be through a consultation with your ancestors, because you need to do the things that people have always done, and you need to do them properly, and you need to assume that that's the way that you should live, unless you have a very good reason to change it dramatically, and maybe you do, but you've got to start with some axiomatic set of presuppositions, because otherwise you have to invent everything on your own, and you don't have enough time to do that. So you have to use normative guidelines. And if you don't, then people won't know what to do with you. That's another big problem. If you live completely outside the norm. I mean, you know, remarkable artists manage that to some degree. But of course they pay for the privilege by being remarkable artists. So if there's something truly remarkable about you, perhaps you could justify deviating from the normative path. But if there isn't, First of all, there's nothing remarkable enough about you to justify deviating in every way from the normative path, no matter how remarkable you are. So that's part of the rescuing of the father from the depths, is to reunite yourself with the traditional structures of your community. You can do that in a way that you feel suits your own needs best. But I don't think you can not do it, because it makes you weak. And then you'll drown.